Welcome everyone and greetings of peace. Welcome to this online discussion group for the Faith Communities Network of Tasmania. It's titled Leading Faith Communities in Difficult Times. We have apologies from the Aboriginal member of the network, but she has asked us to acknowledge the original custodians of the land where we are, the Muhanina people, the Big River people, and to honour their leaders, their elders, both past, present and emerging. This meeting has a fourfold purpose. Firstly, to strengthen and unify us as a group of compassionate leaders in exploring how we lead our faith communities in difficult times. 2, to commemorate the massacre at Christchurch, which was perpetrated by an Australian religiously motivated extremist. 3, to take another step towards exploring Hobart as a compassionate city. And 4, to honour Harmony Day, which is today. Could we share a moment of silence together to hold these purposes in light? Thank you, everyone. I have a brief introduction to the speakers today. The first one, Very Reverend Richard Humphrey, the Dean of Hobart, the Dean of St David's Cathedral in Hobart. And to acknowledge, while introducing Richard, that the Wellspring Anglican Church won the City of Hobart Community Event of the Year for a program called Show Hope, which supported international students during the pandemic. The second speaker will be Venerable Master Wang Chindai, the Patriarch of the Tasmanian Chinese Buddhist Academy of Australia. And while we're talking about awards, a member of Master Wang's Sangha, Shen Wan Lynch, a talented pianist, last year raised $11,000 for Red Cross Australia disaster relief bushfire appeal through a charity piano concert, and he won the City of Hobart Young Citizen of the Year. The third speaker will be Ajit Ramdas. He's the president of Deepawali Tasmania and an official of the Hindu Society of Tasmania. Qazi Sabir, who is the president of the Tasmanian Muslim Association. Ayman Jaffrey, who is the secretary of the Shia Association and senior vice chair of the Multicultural Council of Tasmania. Then there'll be Jagmeet Singh Gould of the Gurudwara Nanak Darbar in Hobart, and Adani Mebratu, who is the president of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church Association. Morni Chen from Taiwan, who has conducted international workshops for leaders of government, NGOs, business, faith groups on the future of power, compassionate leadership, will also speak. And Gwen Pinnington will speak about the Charter for Compassion Australia. Emeritus Professor Des Cahill, OAM, Chair of Religions for Peace, and Professor of Intercultural Studies at RMIT, will sum up and close the meeting. So, first speaker is Very Reverend Richard Humphrey, the Dean of St. David's Cathedral in Hobart. And we thank you for joining us, Richard, and look forward to hearing your contribution to the discussion. Thank you, everyone. Hope you can join in and enjoy what will be shared.
For those who don't know me, I'm the Dean of Hobart at St. David's Cathedral. And I have a terrible cold right now. I've had my test, but because we're all on Zoom, I don't need to socially isolate from you. I did preach this morning at the cathedral, but I walked in, preached and left. I've never taken a service quite like it, but there you go. I suspect that for many of us, the challenge it will be related. For us, it was there were many of them, not being able to meet when that's fundamental for a Christian community. How do you do communion when we were allowed to re-meet? Learning new skills. I'm now a bit of a wizard at iMovie and stuff like that, and know how to do things I didn't know before. Dealing with an elderly congregation who flatly refused to do anything to do with Zoom. But I think probably the biggest challenge was simply the anxiety that was created by the pandemic and the challenges that those changes forced upon us. And the way we faced that challenge was both early on as a diocese and as a church. We sought to make sure that we acknowledged the issues and gave clear direction as to how we were going to manage things. So from actually late January, we started to change how we did things. And there was clear direction given both for our community, but also across the Anglican Church. We're grateful that the government generally did the same because clear direction generally helps reduce anxiety. We taught also Christian principles, particularly from Romans, which became a bit of a theme for us for a number of months, that Paul could write, "For I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord." And if that is true, if that's what our faith means, then we act out of love, not out of fear. And that was trying to change people around from thinking about reacting in fear, but rather reacting in love. So wearing a mask was the loving thing to do it. Don't be afraid of it. We also sought to do ways to help people be in touch with their faith physically when we couldn't meet physically. So last Palm Sunday, we posted all the palm crosses to all the congregation members, and that was incredibly well received. Our success in facing that challenge has been seen in the general resilience of the cathedral people, the cathedral community, and the way that the same thing was happening in other churches was seen in the way that Christians responded, particularly Show Hope, which was certainly something acting out of love, not out of fear. And as many churches did, particularly caring for international students in their midst, caring for those of any faith and none in the name of the risen Jesus. So that's how we dealt with it as a community. I just want to say a couple of things, given the fact the issue was leadership in times of change, because I've responded in a particular Christian way to those challenges, which is what you'd expect me to do. But I think there are some challenges of leadership during those times, which will be true across any denomination. One, for me, for instance, is how do you be the dean when being a dean means you have a cathedral? A year ago, last Friday, the doors shut. What did it mean to have my role when the thing that defined my role was no longer there? Now, I can't speak for anybody else's experience, but that really affected me. I remember we were being encouraged to act out of confidence. I went to this professional development thing about times of leadership and times of change, and we should make sure we're passing on our sense of certainty to our staff. I'm like, how do I do? I have no sense of certainty. I don't know what's going on. So that was something in particular for me. And the other one, which I'm sure there will be other faith leaders who have suffered this, what we call decision fatigue, of just constantly having to make decisions about how you do things. Like most weeks when things are normal, I make 2 decisions a week. What am I going to preach on and what songs are we going to sing? And suddenly we had to decide, everything had to be decided every week. And so I'm needing to make sure that this year, I make sure there is time to look after myself. There wasn't a lot of time last year. My body's making me do it now because of forced isolation. But I encourage those other faith leaders, if you've been affected by decision fatigue, make sure you take the time you need to be away from your work, not making decisions. Read a good book, go to the beach, whatever it is that you're allowed to do, and make sure that you're there so that you can support your community during the next time of crisis.
Thank you, Richard. Really helpful.
5 minutes.
I wasn't counting, Morney's counting, but it was very relevant, and thank you for that. That help. Master Wang, our congratulations to the City of Hobart Young Citizen of the Year, who raised $110,000 for the bushfire appeal. Such a wonderful effort.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and it's great to see you all.
今天我看到了很多新的朋友和老的朋友。
So Master today sees many new and old friends.
我们墨本来的那个宗教领袖啊，已经是10多年的友谊。
Especially from Professor Cahill from Melbourne, we already have close to 10 years of friendship.
Yeah. 今天的主题很好，因为是讲一个慈悲，慈悲是我们所有宗教的根本原则。
And Master believes today's main topic of compassion is very important, and it is indeed a integral part of all of our religions.
作为一个宗教，如果是离开了慈悲，它就不是宗教。
And we feel that if a religion leaves the content of compassion, it can no longer be called a religion.
就像里约人所发生的那个 Christchurch 所发生的大屠杀，我相信这些人是背离了宗教的原则，而背离了宇宙的原则，宇宙大爱的原则，而做这些事情。
We believe that the Christchurch Massacre that happened before is something because those people who have done it have left the ideology of compassion, and they have betrayed the concepts of the universe, such as those of great love.
对我们来说，在去年的疫情当中，也帮助了很多中国来的学生、留学生。
And from our perspective, in last year, from the 1 year pandemic that we've had last year, we were able to help those Chinese students that were stuck in Tasmania.
帮助主要是免费的分发一些口罩。
And the main way that we've done that is through providing free masks for everyone.
分发口罩就是保护自己，实际上也是保护众生。
And from our perspective, we believe that sharing these masks were a way of protecting ourselves, but also for protecting others.
作为我们这里的金刚圣言小活佛，他的钢琴演奏在捐助大火的时候，就一次就捐助了11万块钱。但实际上，他去年做了将近10次的捐助，都是捐助那些困难的儿童。
And from our academy's perspective, the young reincarnated being, Vajra Sun Yuan, he held a major music concert for charity, And like Terry very correctly pointed out, we were able to raise $11,000 that we were able to donate to the bushfire relief that happened last year, of course, you all know. And throughout the period of the pandemic from last year, we had over 10 charity events where we were able to support those children in need and those who are quite vulnerable.
我今天听到我们的主题是做一个慈悲的打造，我们宗教应该是一马当先，作为慈悲的打造的领头羊。
Master Wang heard the main topic of today is how Tasmania or Hobart is becoming the city of compassion or the compassionate city. And Master believes that us as religious leaders should be the spearhead and the one leading the way.
所以我很高兴能够听到这样的一个主题，也很高兴我们的这个宗教组织，整个霍巴特的宗教组织，不管是哪一个宗教，都高举起这个慈悲的大旗，为众生服务。
And that's why Master was delighted to hear such a great topic, because he believes that us as a religious community, and no matter what religion we're from, we all very highly hoist the flag of compassion, where we lead all Tasmanians.
所以我今天是来向各位宗教的长老、领袖学习的，谢谢大家。
So that is why Master Wang here today. It's very delightful to hear the upcoming speeches, because he's here to learn from all you religious elders and leaders. So Master Wang, thanks you for your time.
阿弥陀佛。
Amitabha Buddha.
Thank you, Master Wang. The next speaker on the list, Adani Mabratu, only finished work at 3, so he's going to join us later. And Ajit Ramdas from the Hindu Society of Tasmania. I think you've been president for as long as I've known you, Ajit, but I don't think you are at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. I'm not the president of the Hindu Society, but some other societies I am. Yeah.
Dilwali, anyway. I know you're the president of the Dilwali Society.
Yeah. So, thank you all for this meeting, and looking at the subject matter of today's means the whole pandemic, and the last year it came as a challenge for all the community members, and especially for the Hindu community here. They are settling the places and where to worship different type of things. So, and the restrictions, we can't go to the temple or we can't go to the religious congregations, so that started giving problems. Then the biggest problem was people who are working, their jobs are being lost, or their time of working being changed. So a lot of things, it is just like said earlier by different people, the love or the compassion, those aspects started coming up. People started expressing that. In another way, looking at the life, the changing nature of life, and within that thing, even the life itself is a gift of God. The love, we are experiencing life. That thing, people started experiencing, and that lead to people helping each other. Lot of works in Hindu communities, little unorganized, but there have been lot of work. People started helping each other, giving different type of help, and it started giving them a good comfort. Then the bigger problem was people migrated from outer places. Their relatives or the parents and other people are suffering, and there is a lot of sad news, and they had to bear the sad news without going there, being here itself. Those things were the challenging one, but maybe the the true nature of life, or being mindful of what is changing, what is impermanent, what is permanent, and what God's love is, those things helped in overcoming the thing. Then again, okay, talking back, okay, means or looking back, it is the love, compassion, those things, okay, making people thoughtful of life. Always we get get thoughtful about different aspects of life. This is not working, but suddenly we start looking at life itself. That way, in one way, okay, it is a good thing which brought forward the inner nature of life. When we look everything inside, we can see there is a need for love, need for compassion, and we are started providing that love and compassion. That is something good happened. Then the way we are talking together today, I mean, these facilities, okay, these started coming up. That is another big achievement in the sense. Means earlier we are never thinking about doing these webinars. Now people started getting connected different places. Even for our congregations, we started having webinars. So that way it gave using the modern technology to get connected each other, or giving consolation to the inner feelings of life, inner wish for being together, being get connected, those things getting expressed. It is a challenging year. Means it is some challenge. Means okay, where means maybe all the religious and all the faith communities can look at each other also, because beyond everything, okay, there is a way we human beings need to get connected. Again, means saying it may be called as compassion. It can be called as love. So the challenges and the way we cope with the challenges and way we are looking forward for future, with that prayer and with that wish and wishful thought, let me just conclude my talks. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Ajit. I'd just like to put in an addition here, because I'm fortunate enough to be part of the Diwali group that Ajit is the president of. And I saw the efforts that you went to. The Diwali group comprises 16 different community groups, including Nepalese, Malayali, 16. And Ajit and his right-hand man, Bharatiji, were like loving mothers of those communities, checking out where they could get grants to provide food parcels, where they could get grants to provide emotional support. There was all kinds of incognito things happening that Ajit didn't mention, that were a manifestation of the love he was talking about. Thank you, Ajit. Kazi Sabir, would you like to speak? Now, Kazi is the president of the Tasmanian Muslim Association and another non-stop supporter of his community. Can you talk to us about the wisdom you gained, Kazi?
I really thank you so much for giving me or allowing me, giving us the opportunity to talk about what sort of challenges we have faced or we usually feel. So before COVID, the biggest challenge we faced the Christchurch terrorist attack, which happened in 2019. And not only the Tasmanian Muslims, but the entire Muslim community in the world faced a greater challenges after this attack. We just suddenly had that shock, fear, and the people who are very visible in their identities, like the women who wear hijab, the men who has beard or turban, or wear the long jacket, they felt very nervous to go outside and also, like felt very nervous to attend the mosque. Some of us, like send their children for the, like Islamic classes to the mosque. They were also very afraid to send their children. And also we are the authority of the Chabad Mosque. So we were also, like thinking what we need to do to, like assure the safety, or, like whether are we really safe, and if the similar kind happens in here, then it will be a disaster. Then, like it was very distressing. We had like very urgent meeting, and in that urgent meetings, like we decided few things, but we are also very fortunate that the local Department of Home Affairs community liaison officer contacted me, and she then arranged some, like urgent meeting with the Department of Police. So we had consultations with the police, and then we called for another session with all the communities directly, like so that they can directly ask questions, or they can hear directly from the police that, like what sort of things they'll do. So once we arranged that, the community was a little bit, like relaxed, because they had the direct communication with the police. And straight away after, like when the entire wider community responded with the love and gratitude, came back with the flowers and placards, and then we had a vigil by the city, Hobart City Council and Multicultural Council, and then so many things happened during that time. All those sort of things changed our fear to love and compassion, and it was really, like a very good thing we learned during that time, and our community then got the assured with the safety, and they still, like were coming to the mosque with the understanding that the entire wider community is with us, so no problem. So it was really a good learning, that very big challenge, but the response was very good. And I also learned one thing during that time, that even though like if we just think as a Muslim community, then we are just one. But when all of the entire community, like joined us, supported us, showed their support, offered their support, then we felt we are not one anymore. We are just, like part of the entire wider community. And that was really a great thing, great achievement for us.
Yeah. It is a good feeling to know that the community is with you from its heart. And also that the police have offered us a workshop in June or July in protecting our places of worship. So if anyone is interested in knowing more about that, please let me know. And our next speaker, Ayman Jaffrey, works at the police, at Tas Police. I think she's their right-hand lady, aren't you, Ayman? Now, I must correct something. In my email, I said that Ayman was the president of the Shia Association, but she's the secretary. Can you talk to us about your community and its experiences during the last 18 months or so, Ayman?
Yes, Terry. Thank you so much, and it's an honor to be here with so many experienced people. Pardon me if I miss out on something, but yeah, I just build up on what Qazi Saber said, that during the Christchurch Massacre, I think there was a lot of people in the community were really scared as to what will be the response, what will happen. But I think the sacrifice that people made at the Christchurch incident and the response we got, it actually showcased that how patient the Muslim community actually is, because they did not retaliate to anything. They did not take any adverse action. And so I think it just somewhere did showcase what was happening. And it's not only with the Muslims. I think extremism is there in every religion. So there are always good people and bad people. So we need to see that the good people are always taken care of, and extremism cannot be part of any religion. I mean, I personally believe that we are all part of that same light of God. We just distributed into different religions. I happen to meet a lot of people these days, and when we start our discussion, we all come back to the same thing, that there is just one creator, and we are all part of the branches, and we're all what he has made us. The light in us is from the creator. So that's very good to hear that, we're all on the same page. As far as the Shia Muslim community is concerned, especially in Tasmania, we are around roughly 3,000 plus people. And again, they are struggling with their place of worship. They do not have one place where they can go and worship. They do not have a graveyard where they can be buried. So during the month of Muharram, which is a very, very sacred month for the Shia Muslims, they were actually struggling to find a place where they could go and do their prayers and stuff. And especially when the COVID hit, there was a lot of, they could not find a place, they could not gather together. So that causes a lot of frustration within the people, what they could do. So we managed to have people volunteered, give their houses, open their houses to the people where they can, just small gatherings, they could come together and hold their religious things. So that shows the unity and the brotherhood. Even our non-Shia friends, we were offered in a church to come and do our religious gatherings. So, that actually makes your heart really bigger to see that everybody is standing behind each other. So that was a very, very positive message, that people opened their homes, their hearts, their place of worships. Churches were offered to come, and people were asked to come and do their prayers. So that was something really good to see.
I'm glad to hear too, Eamon. Thank you. Jagmeet, would you like to talk for the Sikh community?
Yes, I would love to. I guess the first thing I want to talk about is compassion. In our prayers, we have a line that says "Tol Dharam Daya Ka Poot," which means that righteousness is the son of compassion. So without compassion, you can't be righteous. And I feel like a lot of acts of extremism that are committed, they believe that they are right, they're on the righteous side, but if they lack compassion, they're already on the wrong path. And now the challenges we face in our community is mostly because obviously had to go into lockdown, people couldn't congregate, and congregation is a very important aspect of our life, of our expressing our faith. So that was quite difficult, and a lot of people would come to the temple and do seva, which is selfless service. So a lot of people felt like they couldn't be as involved, and they were quite, I guess, frustrated, as most people were with the lockdown, and they were feeling a bit lost, which is quite understandable. But I feel like our community, we saw that there's something missing, that we needed to do something, help a bit more. So we first started with our langar. We have weekly langar, or even like daily langar, but on Sundays we have a main congregation. We would have langar, which is the food that we make and we distribute between in the community. But once lockdown hit, we've started doing langar, but we started delivering it. We delivered it not just to our community members, but people outside of our community as well. So I believe we did it twice a week, and we would go up to 100 people. So we're feeding 100 people twice a week with hot vegetarian food. And some people were quite reliant on that. I know that there's some international students that were quite reliant on that. But because of that langar, people would have the opportunity to still do seva, to do some service, whether that be actually helping with the cooking or delivering. So the people didn't feel like they were alone. They were still involved with the community. Another thing was prayers, which people could do individually, but some people, especially the elderly, they were missing out on that feeling of everyone praying together. And one of the solutions that we had was started live streaming the prayers that we would do at the temple. So with the 1 or 2 people that would go to the temple to pray, they would set up their phone and they would live stream the prayers on Facebook. So people could listen to that and still feel like nothing has changed. So they still felt like they could congregate without being physically together, which I thought was very, very important. And we're very, very grateful for the technology that allowed us to do that. And I think the last issue was we had weekly Sunday classes teaching Punjabi, a language to the children. And again, through Zoom, the platform we're using right now, we were able to continue those classes without any issue. It was so the kids could still learn the language, their mother language, and they there was I think that's about it. Just it was just a very, very important platform for us to be able to continue what was important to us without actually being physically there. And I think having those challenges and then being able to find solutions very quickly and still continue somewhat normally was very, very interesting, and I'm very blessed to have that.
Thank you, Jagmeet. I'd just like to throw in here that a lot of the Sikh community lost their jobs, and yet they were still finding a means to serve langar, to serve food, not only to other Sikhs or international students, but to the general community. And my heart warmed when I saw messages from obviously pensioners or people in the mainstream community saying, "Thank you, Sikhs." I think that was quite touching. And the other thing was that you got an application in for a grant at the end of May, and the grant didn't come to fruition until August, and you kept going. You kept going. So they're wonderful achievements. All the faith communities have done wonderful things in the last 18 months. So thank you, Jagmeet. Adani is the president of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church Association. And away you go, Adani. We're looking forward to hearing what you'd like to share with us.
And then that means good afternoon. My name is Adani Mebrahtu. I am the chairman of the Ethiopian Orthodox Abuna Krampus Kudus Church. I am one of the community leader and member of the Ethiopian Association. Our community, we are an African diaspora community within Tasmania, consisting of various ethnic groups from the East African region, Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Oromo all the members of our community are religion, with the majority of the following the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo faith. The community has our own church for the Christian adherent to attend in worship and prayer. Our community also had celebratory event such as Ethiopian New Year. Our community is a very close knit and get together to support and each celebrate event. The most personal moment in our members' lives, such as a wedding, a birth of children, and funeral, graduation, those things to celebrate together each other. And our project, our faith in Jesus Christ is our identity, and the most important part of our beings. Most of our members follow the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo faith. This is the largest of the Oriental Orthodox Christian Church, with the membership of about 36 million people, majority, which is live in Ethiopia. Our community members come together to buy in Tasmania to open a church for the adherents. Since the opening of our church, the church has been consistently filled with members chipping in to pay off the money that was used to buy the church. Some of our members also cook and sell traditional food after church service to help fund the money through the church. The church is old and does not quite meet our needs. We are planning to renovate the church and the cemetery grounds to make them more secure and more accessible. The church is important for members of our community to keep the traditional of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo faith and to also teach and pass into the following generation. This project is also important for members of our community to feel connected and to hit cultural costs, being too far from their homeland. Also, the financial contribution have been significant. With the 90,000 we have raised this far, most of the members are centrally dependent, have limiters to their assistance. Therefore, finance has been a wider, and with your funding is well case functional strain. We are planning significant renovation to adapt the site to meet our community needs. Firstly, install a child-safe fence around the church and cemetery, and install security camera and mention sensitive. We are also seeking financial support, renovate to the toilet or indicate all the fences and something. And then also our challenge, the big challenge for us at the moment is done just because the property is open on the road. We don't feel our children are safe. 1 month ago, a fire was deliberately lit on the property. We feel this makes the matter of the fences extremely urgent, because we don't know who was the perpetrator, whether they will come back. The queues create an anxiety in the community. As yet, we have no resolution to this challenge. In the pandemic time, this has happened. Anyway, this is, we have the big challenge at the moment, but we're going well. For 17 years, the last 17 years, we wasn't have worship place. We was very struggling to make this this project to make it takes us along. But in I think 2020 in December we established this church. Since now, you know, we make it this time, but it is good to see this has happened for our community. It is important things, the worship we got now at the moment, but it doesn't meet what our community needs. That's a problem, because old church need renovation, need defenses, especially priority is the fence to be, it is danger for our kids when we pray over there. It is, I don't know how do we describe this? This is very hard to our community. This is the way we have challenged at the moment. However, just briefly, I would like to mention a situation which we faced during the last year, with COVID-19, before the pandemic. Some of from our community brothers and sisters went to Ethiopia to visit for 3 months. But due to lockdown, they have been prevented from returning for over a year. The rent housing commission home, some of them have rent housing commission for over a year. The rent housing commission home, while they have been away, the community being contributed for 6 months and send the financial support for them, support-wise, and advocate for them with housing Tasmania, but it was terminated, or if they haven't turned up on this month, they was terminated the housing. But at the moment, thanks God, they have arrived at the moment to the past. They are in quarantine, and this resolution is a bit solved as they are arrived here in Australia. Not in their home, but they are in Perth in the quarantine, but they will be here after 14, 15 days. This is resolved, but it was very hard to our community when we it's been cancelled so many times, the air ticket through the air ticket 3-4 times, and we was very worried about them, but at the moment they are here. It is, thanks God, we're praying, all of us, and yeah, this is thanks. And I would like to thank you for give us this opportunity to participate our story and our issue to the faith community of Tasmania. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for coming and sharing your experiences.
Thank you so much.
Morni, can you speak to us about the work that you've been doing with government, non-government, business, sport? I think faith leaders have been included in the Future of Power programs that you've been leading. Can you talk to us a little about that?
You mean, yeah, sorry.
No. No, Adani, Morni Chen, she'll probably wave at you from the screen. She's going to talk about this Future of Power. She's had an interesting experience, not only in India, but I think you've done it around the world, haven't you, Morni?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the idea behind the Future of Power was to bring leaders together from 20 different professions, so business, education, medical, sport, all the different professions, to talk about the use of power and using soft power. So soft power means values-based, spiritual power that can be just as effective in leading corporations and leading sports teams. In fact, if you see the results of sports teams who meditate or businesses, you can see that they really do very well. And so the future of power was to bring leaders together to explore how we can increase soft power at a level that can really make change. And I organized 50 dialogues throughout India in 50 different cities. There was a team, but I was the one, I guess, on the ground inviting the people. And then we've done them in America, in Hong Kong, in Philippines, in Australia. And so that was a very good project to include compassion, because soft power at the heart of that is compassion. So that's what I've done in terms of future of power, but also just to speak a little bit about our organization, because I don't know if you're aware, but the Brahma Kumaris is an organization led by women, started 85 years ago. And so what's happened is this year, we have lost quite a few of those original leaders. And I mean, it's amazing they've lasted so long, because, 85 years is a long time. So the head of the organization, Dadi Janki, was 104. And this has actually it is creating a new situation where we don't have those original jewels, as we call them, the ones that really founded the Brahma Kumaris. And so the awareness is that we all need to step up. And I think the lockdown for us, for the most part, of course, there have been some challenges, but meditation is such an introvertive practice that I think for the most part, we have done quite well individually, and also through the technology, as someone else said, it's been absolutely amazing in supporting others and reaching out to people in need, especially in places like Italy and Spain, and England, so many countries. We have been lucky in Australia, but in many other countries, there's been a lot of death and sickness, and the system has been so stretched. And so, yeah, I think this has been, the timing was interesting, because Dadi Janki passed away just as lockdown was announced in India. She doesn't like any expense, and so I'm sure she was smiling and happy that they couldn't even get flowers because everyone was in lockdown. And so, there's been a lot of challenges, I know, to many, many communities. However, I do feel that there's been some very, very deep significance and shifts that hopefully will take us forward to a more compassionate, kind, peaceful, and connected. I think we've never been as connected as we are now in many ways. Of course, we can't meet together as communities and families as we did, but we've gone beyond borders. And so this is really the new times. Beyond borders is how we're thinking these days. So yeah, there has been loss, but there's also been opportunity. So I think I'll keep it short, because I'd love to have others interact.
Thank you, Morning.
Thank you.
Reverend Gus Yearsley. Now, look at you, Gus, way ahead of the game. He's put up on your screen through chat that he is a facilitator. Oh, it's disappeared. Can you tell it? Can you speak it, Gus?
Yeah, it's still in the chat there. Thanks, Terry, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm the State Officer for the Tasmanian Council of Churches Emergencies Ministry, and we have about 180 volunteers across the state. And it's a multi-faith program, although it was started by the Tasmanian Council of Churches and still retains that name in our title of our entity. It is a multi-faith program. So our core work is to provide pastoral care and personal support in evacuation centres when there's fires and floods. And historically, that's what we've trained for. And that's kind of our core business. And we still do that when required, but the pandemic has changed things for us quite considerably. You might remember the 2019 fires based around Huonville, and there were fires elsewhere in the state as well. And that lasted for about 3 weeks. And at that stage, we thought that was a really long campaign for us because we're used to fires and floods and might be 2 to 5 days at the maximum. And then people are going to return to their homes or to what's left of their homes, unfortunately, in some cases. So to go for 3 weeks was a long time. And then we got to the pandemic and we supported people who were disembarking the Spirit of Tasmania ferry in Devonport for 80 days in a row. So we did 80 shifts. And we spent a lot of time with temporary visa holders who had gained government funding to return to their place of residence overseas. And we provided psychosocial support, mostly over the phone, some face-to-face, for those temporary visa holders as they went through the process of organising flights and returning home. And again, that was over many months. As part of this too, we supported the large not-for-profit, supported their staff as they returned to work after having a period of working from home. And there was anxiety and concern about returning to the office space. Our volunteers went in maybe once a week or once a fortnight, and that work's ongoing. So again, that is over many, many months rather than just a handful of days. And we also realised, which I should have realised years ago, really, a little bit slow on the uptake, that we're pretty much the only organisation that was only operating in emergencies. So there's lots of NGOs that work in the emergency space, and we work collaboratively with those when there is an emergency. But we realised that we were only working in emergency times. All the other ones have their core business, which is outside of emergencies, and they might change their modus operandi a little bit during an emergency, but they are doing things year round, whereas for us, we're just working in emergencies. And the pandemic has changed that because the emergency, in a sense, is so long that we're working for a long period of time. So that's enabled us to move into a workplace chaplaincy kind of model in some regards. And in the background of all that work, we've been working in airport chaplaincy since 2018. So that's an ongoing workplace chaplaincy sort of role as well. So to be a volunteer with TCC Emergencies Ministry requires some training. So 1 day training day with our trainers and some accreditation process involving getting referees reports. And one of those referees reports comes from the volunteers' faith community leader. And it's really important for us that our volunteers are connected to a faith community locally where they can get some support for the role that they're performing for us. And there's the usual accreditation processes that you'd expect, such as working with vulnerable people card and police checks and the like. So we have just had a couple of training sessions. We had about, I think, 16 or even 18 of the Sikh community trained for the first time, which was wonderful, up in Devonport in December, and then down here in Hobart last month. And we don't have our next course put in the diary yet, but I have put in the chat there the contact details for our organisation. If you'd like to get on the mailing list and be advised of upcoming courses, training days, then I can simply add your email address to that list and you'll get notification when there is a course coming up. If you do have people in your faith community who would like to have a look at this as a volunteering opportunity, then we'd love to have them along or have you along. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Gus. And Professor Doug Ezzi. Thanks for joining us, Doug.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's really wonderful to hear all those stories and to see your faces. I'm running 2 large research projects. One I'm nearly finishing, which is on religious diversity. And we're writing up some papers about that at the moment. If you're interested, I can send you some of the things that we've just written about with one of my honours students. I think she might have interviewed a few of you. did a lovely study of how people negotiate religious difference in Hobart. And she wrote a little paper about that. But I'm about to start a new research project on religious freedom and religious difference. And I just wanted to come and say hello and wave, and so that you know who I am if I send you an email and say, would you mind being interviewed by me? That you've seen my face and heard me talk, and know that I'm friendly and interesting to talk to. So the two things, we've done some research in the past. If you want to see what we've written, send me an email, or I can send you a link to the website. And you might hear from me in the future, and I'll hope you respond positively when you do. So thanks again. I really enjoyed hearing your stories. It was really excellent. I've learned a lot.
Doug, thank you for coming. And could you put your link up in the chat?
I can, yes.
Thank you. Chris Parnell put it up on our Religions for Peace Australia webpage. And I have put it in the Religions for Peace Tasmania newsletter, and the Faith Networks. I sent that out too. So yes. we really appreciate being connected with universities, as Des has led us so well. We need the objectivity of research.
Yep.
To help us know what works and know what doesn't. Eamon, thank you for being part of this. It was we really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you, everyone, guys. I'm just running late for another appointment, so I'll hope to see you guys soon somewhere down. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too, Eamon. Bye.
Bye, Master Bang.
Yes. Now there's Gwen. Are you still there, Gwen? Where are you? There you are.
I am. I'm still here. And I need to run shortly too, so I'll keep mine very short and sweet.
So Gwen is a council member of the Australian Charter for Compassion, and she conducts compassionate integrity training, or she's about to start in Hobart on the 21st of July in the town hall. The mayor has given her a room to run this program. Gwen, would you like to talk about your work?
I'd love to. Thanks, Terry, and thanks everyone for coming together in this. It's really lovely to hear all of the compassionate actions that are happening here in Hobart in each of your communities. So it's really, really heartwarming to hear all of that. So I am part of the Australia Compassion Council, which is the Australian chapter, I guess, if you will, for the Charter for Compassion. The Charter for Compassion started it was a vision of Karen Armstrong in 2008. And the charter was launched in 2009. In 2010, the Australian Parliament was the first parliament to recognize the Charter for Compassion. And since then, the charter has grown immensely. The Charter for Compassion, you can read all about it on their website, so I won't go into great detail. However, they basically have a vision to create a world where everyone is committed to living by the principles of compassion. And so the Charter for Compassion is a document, and it's also a movement, and it's a network of networks, just like this is here, really, trying to bring about more compassion into the world. The Australia Compassion Council, so our version here in Australia, we're a group of volunteers from all walks of life and sectors and backgrounds, and we have a vision. We're dreaming big to create Australia and demonstrate Australia as the first continent for compassion. And so we're actively working on that. There's 3 things that we're working on at the moment. One is our Compassionate Cities initiatives. So trying to bring about cities to sign up as compassionate cities and demonstrate how they're doing that. Ballarat and Gold Coast are 2 in Australia that are already signed up. And Terry and I are working actively to get a Tasmanian city signed up as a compassionate city, even though we already know exactly that there are many compassionate actions happening in the city already by what we heard here today. The second thing we do, in addition to the Compassionate Cities, is really share and acknowledge all of the compassionate actions that are happening in Australia. And then the third thing is on September 21st, the National Day for Compassion and International Day for Peace. We are looking for folks from all over the country to participate in that day, the National Day of Compassion, and create an activity or an event or a cause and bring people together all in the name of compassion. So that's effectively what we're doing. And I look forward at some point to participating in this way with all of you in some way, shape, or form. So thank you for letting me join this and share a little bit about it and to hear your stories. It's been a real honor.
Well, thank you, everybody, and especially people that have sacrificed important events like Des' 4-year-old birthday party for his grandchild, to come together to share wisdom gleaned in difficult circumstances. Those of you who have to leave, take our good wishes with you, and we wish everything good for you and your communities. Those of you who like to stay and chat and catch up with people, I'm not going to close the meeting.
It was very good to see, the religious leaders of Tasmania coming together and sharing their thoughts about the bushfires and then the pandemic and what that meant. But I particularly liked you commemorating the Christchurch Massacre, because Australian society has not properly reflected on the fact that the gunman was an Australian. And we haven't had a proper conversation. And I think it's being resisted for reasons that I don't fully understand, even at state levels, I think, because it was deeply embarrassing to be an Australian when a fellow Australian did such a terrible deed. And because it highlights the dangers that we have from ideologically based religious extremism, whether it has a religious base or not. So that's very good that you've been commemorating that. It was good to see so many people that I met at the opening that day at Parliament House. That was a special event for me. And also to see Master Wang, whom I've known, it was more than 10 years. It's about 13 or 14 years that I've known him. And he played a key role in the Parliament of the World's Religions here in Melbourne in 2009. So what have I got to say? I mean, it was good at the end hearing about the various things, the compassion work of Gwen, Doug's work, and also Gus's chaplaincy work. That's of particular interest to me at the moment, because we have a major research and consultation project on chaplaincy here in Melbourne that's being financed by the Victorian Multicultural Commission. And so a result of that will feed into the Victorian government, and no doubt it will be available Australia-wide. That's not a great difficulty when we get around to writing it up. I suppose one of the things that I like to emphasize, that COVID-19, and someone brought this up, I think, Ajit, the COVID-19 has highlighted the precariousness of life, and that we are all in the same boat, fragile and disoriented. And I think our vulnerability to COVID-19, and Australia has handled it extremely well when you look at the figures. I mean, our death rate is 50 times less than the American. That's an extraordinary difference. And about 60 times less than the UK rate. But it's uncovered our vulnerability and our false certainties. And I know that Pope Francis has emphasized that it's time now to decide to live differently, to live better, to love more, and to care more. And I think those are very important words, because COVID-19 has, as it were, brought the whole world to its knees. And the importance of spiritual hope, because I think people without a purpose of life that has a spiritual content have often found themselves at a loss during this time. And I see spiritual hope as the capacity to embrace not only the known, but also the unknowable. Because maybe this may not be the first of future pandemics. We've had smaller pandemics, Ebola, HIV, but the last really major one was the Spanish flu back in after the First World War. But I think that it's brought home the present pandemic that we're being called on. There's the cry of the poor, okay, during this time, and that's going to become another issue, a bigger issue. It's already an issue. And the cry of the land, because increasingly we can see that there is a link, that there are scientists who are recognizing that with the cut down of the forest, the depletion of certain species, etc., that increases the possibility of future pandemics. That may not happen, but I think there is a greater risk there. So the importance of spiritual hope is something that I think we, as religiously inspired people and committed to the interfaith agenda, that we can all work together to give hope, and hence the importance of the religious voice. Now, I'm emphasizing we've had this crisis. We may be through it as the vaccination is rolled out, but then there's going to be these economic crisis, the social justice crisis. And we're now starting to see, with the end of job seeker, with the banks no longer giving a holiday for mortgages and so on. Just in this morning's paper here in Melbourne, it's now starting to appear that people no longer are having their electricity turned off because they can't pay for it. The holiday that the power companies have given has ended. And so we're going to also see severe mortgage stress. And that's going to put a burden on religious communities and their welfare agencies and so on, to be able to respond to that. So those are my thoughts in listening to what I've heard today. And I again congratulate Tasmania for what you are achieving and for something like this. It's great work, and it was impressive to see so many religious leaders come together to look at the whole issue of religious leadership in difficult times, as we've been through in the past 12, 15 months, but it ain't ended yet.